previously on F1.
The season is underway. Vettel leads the World Championship. Whoa! That's incredible. Vettel wins again. Lewis Hamilton wins brilliantly. Vettel takes the victory. This is supreme sporting skill. He is the master of Monaco.
Round 7, Canada.
It's 2011.
So they brought the new rules in.
CARES, DRS.
Pit stop after
Pit stop.
It was like you needed to be a rocket scientist.
I'm certainly no rocket scientist. It was enough to make you go loopy. It's the most competitive grid we've had in years. That's what we thought. But there's one name on everybody's
Vettel steals. It's Vettel yet again.
How are you going to stop him? And who's going to catch him?
He's like an unstoppable force.
He can't be human. But he is human.
He can be beaten.
It's not all over yet. Believe me. Blink and you'll miss it.
You just can't take your eyes off it.
It's predictably unpredictable. I wouldn't change a thing.
It's crazy.
Crazy. I can't take it. Where is he?
What happened?
Keep up with this. Hey! Trust me. Don't worry. I'm fine. I'm fine.
It really is enough to mess with your mind at the moment. Good evening. Thank you very much for being so patient. For the first time in 2011, you've had to wait until 5 p.m. for a Grand Prix. But trust me, this circuit, this weather, and the desperate need for the rest of the pack to beat Sebastian Vettel, it will be well worth the wait. And this place is somewhere that both of my partners in crime have enjoyed plenty of success over the years. David Coulthard, just making sure his hair doesn't get ruined on live television. It's very important. Thank you for being so caring and sharing the umbrella. And in fact, for Eddie, this is where it all started for him 20 years ago.
Andrea De Cesaris comes through to finish in 5th position. Behind him is teammate Gasho, so Eddie Jordan will be overjoyed.
Well, that was way back in 1991, Eddie, your first ever points in Formula One, and a few years later, your first double podium. Here's Rubens Barrichello fist-pumping with delight. Those were happy days for you, weren't they?
Canada has always been very special. Look at the crowds on the... It was remarkable, and I think the Canadian people sort of liked the Jordan style of things, and to get these results here was really very special.
Yeah. How would you surmise the Jordan style of things? What was that?
A little bit crazy.
A little bit.
Very serious under the skin, but actually the outside people thought we were a bit rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's something that we've had to live with.
Just like you, hey?
Not really. Very serious person. Alongside DC here makes me look even more sensible.
OK, well, talking to David Coulthard, his success in Formula One both started and ended right here in Canada.
Schumacher wins in Canada. David Coulthard right behind him finishes in a fine 5th position.
So those were your first ever points in 1994, David, and 14 years later, your final podium in the sport. Why are you running to the podium, though?
Well, unfortunately, the park fermé is at the beginning of the pit lane, and the podium is at the end, so there was no... I think I was a bit late getting there, actually, so I missed the shuttle bus to take me to the podium.
And you're a man that doesn't like running, either?
No, I don't run.
No. Which of those two memories is the fondest for you? Because, of course, your first points in Formula One is always special, but 94 was obviously a very sad year for Formula One. Equally, to do that for Red Bull is something that I know you were very proud of.
Well, indeed. It's obviously two different moments of my career. 94, I remember actually losing feeling in my leg, actually, because of the physical forces of Grand Prix. Yeah. I was a young driver and I wasn't really well enough prepared. But 2008, I knew it was my last season, and it was special to get on the podium.
Eddie?
I think Canada has that ring of it. It was a huge loss for me when it was dropped from the calendar a couple of years ago. But you know what's happened? If you look what's going on in the centre of town, if you see the crowds that are here, it has come back much stronger. And I see this as being one of the top 3 races in our whole calendar, and I think it's a race that can't be missed.
This is an exciting place to be when it's dry. When it's wet, it's an incredible Grand Prix, and the rain is getting a lot heavier, the sky is getting darker, but still the crowds are turning up because they're pretty loyal for their motorsport around here. But as these boys are testament to, the years just keep on rolling in Formula One, and so do the seasons. After today, we'll be over a third of the way through 2011, a season that won't include the Bahrain Grand Prix after they decided to remove themselves from the calendar.
Well, basically, we took the calculated decision that we didn't want to cause any more inconvenience to the teams. Their schedules that have been set already towards the end of the season, and being a long-term player in the F1 arena, we decided to withdraw or stop the pursuit of our race for this year and focus on next year's calendar.
OK, well, let's just talk about how this whole thing has been resolved, Eddie and David, because in the end, it's Bahrain that have made that decision. But Formula One hasn't looked particularly clever, has it, for the past month or so?
Well, you say that, but I think it just shows that Formula One is such a global player that it is, able to transcend the sport, transcend the sports pages. So, inevitably, when you have a number of different factions with a number of different end games in mind, then you are going to get these sort of uncertainties. But I think you have to say that it's down to the FIA and the teams ultimately to make the final statement as to what they're doing. But in this case, the Bahrainis have stepped forward. And
that's probably the most salient point, actually, Eddie. We're standing outside Ferrari here, and yesterday their team principal said that the sport mustn't use situations like this for personal gain. What or who do you think he was talking about there?
Well, I think what has happened is sport often can be used as a mechanism, whether it's a battering ram or a feather, it doesn't matter which side of the spectrum you're looking at. The fact is that sport should not be put in a position where it's actually influencing things that should be politically influenced. And I think that's the critical thing. I think also what he's talking about is Formula One has to learn by these mistakes that were made in the last, because communication is vital in every walk of life, whether it be home, whether it be business. Sport is no exception. We did not get it right in Formula One with regard to the communication.
OK, right, well, let's move on to slightly happier things, and this place particularly. This is called the Gilles Villeneuve circuit. It's a special circuit named after a special champion, which means the boys racing today have got rather a lot to live up to. As you can see, the world champion is in the house. Let's just go for a little walk and see what's going on at the moment, because it's always frantic activity ahead of a race, particularly when the race is wet. The race director has to work out whether to start under a safety car. The teams have to decide whether to go with wet tyres, intermediate tyres, or if you're incredibly brave in these conditions, slick tyres. But talking about racing in the wet particularly, David, you raced here in the year 2000 in the wet. You've raced in Australia in the wet, in Monaco in the wet. On these temporary tracks, what's it like when the rain starts coming down?
Well, actually, it's a lot more comfortable in the racing car than our current walk down the pit lane here. This umbrella's not big enough, and I'm seriously considering why are we not standing under the cover of one of these garages?
We're bringing the excitement and the atmosphere of the rain to the people at home. That's what it's all about.
Okay, the only one who's staying really dry here is EG in the middle.
Thank you for that, because you've been so kind to me. I just have a little point. Funny, as we're walking down here, we're walking on which is painted. And the one thing that every driver, every team boss will tell his driver going to the grid, stay off the curbs, because they're painted. And if you want to have a slippy little ride into the barrier, then you get your wheels up on something like this. You've got absolutely zero grip, right, David? And you must stay on the black stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. But in actual fact, what they do now is they paint the curbs with a sort of grippy paint. It's like sandy type stuff.
It's still going to be pretty slippery though, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, but it's not quite as scary as it used to be, but you definitely want to keep it on the black stuff. That's good advice from the team bosses.
Well, to keep David happy, we won't walk around too much, but we will talk about the driver standings at the moment, Eddie, and when we look at them and we see how far in the lead Sebastian Vettel is, I imagine he opened his curtains this morning and groaned, and the rest of the grid opened the curtains with a big smile on their faces.
I don't think so, funny enough. And anyone who has witnessed what he did to the entire field in Monza a couple of years ago in the Toro Rosso, they should actually play that DVD again, because he whipped them. He absolutely killed everybody in the race. This man is a master dry and wet. I don't think he was waking up to any big crisis in his own mind.
It's a fair point, but it does make the margin for error a little bit smaller, doesn't it, when the rain starts to fall?
There's no question, and especially in a track like Montreal. You know, it's maybe not the low downforce circuit that we've seen it to be in the past, but nonetheless, it is a very high-speed circuit, and in the wet you'll be slightly down in those top speeds, but you'll still be brushing 200 miles an hour, and when you've got no room for margin, if you start to go in a little slippy slide on the way into the corner, then you could find your way in a one-way ticket to the barrier.
Okay, we'll keep our eyes on those slippy slides throughout the race today, but as far as one man leading and one team are leading, well, it hasn't really dented the excitement of this season, has it? It's been an incredible year so far, and in fact, it's all because Formula One brought in new regulations from lessons that it learned at this race 12 months ago.
I think this is brilliant for the racing. This is what we've been looking for this year. We've been looking for a tyre which is really on the limit. So, you know, I would say to you, don't be nervous about negative publicity about a tyre that's graining. I would say bring this to every Grand Prix and we're going to see great racing.
Lewis Hamilton is away first so far.
I was sure that Montreal would have been a crazy race.
Look, he's gone spinning and lost part of his rear wing, it would seem.
And each lap the tyres start breaking a little bit more, and if it breaks completely, then I know that I'm in trouble.
Oh, we actually could hit the wall there.
The tyres, everyone's on the limit with tyres. To have that many pit stops in a race is good fun.
They're almost coming together.
Formula One should definitely be proud of the race that we all put on today.
He's got the inside line at the moment, and he's taken it.
We knew it was going to be a bit like that here today. Tyres playing a huge role in the race.
Well, now we really are getting juicy.
What a day.
Look at Hamilton coming through. I just wonder whether he might do that and see if he can get through on the inside of Alonso. He judged that perfectly, did Lewis Hamilton.
That was one of the most fun,
And Michael Schumacher's gone straight across the grass.
the most toughest races.
Lewis Hamilton wins again in Canada.
Some drive from Lewis, some race last year, and that was without a drop of rain. But Eddie, you have to applaud the sport for realising and then replicating what happened in Canada last year.
Well, I think there's a whole host of... We've been blessed. We had an unbelievable good season last year, and actually no one believed that we could ever replicate that, as you talk about. But they have, and, you know, there's a couple of issues. Of course, some people say KER, some people say the DRS. For me, I think the tyres have been a significant improvement on the excitement for this year. And yes, we have Vettel running away, but no one really is thinking about that because there's so much overtaking, so much excitement. It's a fabulous season so far.
As Eddie says, we have got Sebastian running away because he has made the most of these new regulations. He's played them perfectly for himself, but even he isn't immune to the odd mistake, and he started this weekend in a way that he wouldn't have wanted to, David.
Yeah, well, this is running into the last chicane. He got a bit too fast into the turn. Track was still a little bit green, so it didn't have as much grip as he expected, and then he lost the rear there, and when you correct, you then basically run out of road. So he lost, obviously, a very valuable development front wing, so he's running an older spec, but nonetheless he was able to secure his pole position, and it's looking good for today's race.
And Eddie, 2 weeks ago in Monaco, we saw a big accident for Sergio Perez. This was coming out of the tunnel down to the Nouveau chicane. Now, he was passed fit to race by the FIA 2 weeks on. However, he made the decision himself not to take part in this weekend, didn't he?
He did, and, you know, that surprised a lot of people. David and I have discussed this, and to get a driver to actually opt not to race is something very, very unusual. And for him and his mindset, I know he's impressed his team by wishing to pull out because he felt that he wasn't quite ready. Most drivers would have just gone for it. He's gone up in everybody's estimation because he had the strength of will to actually decide he wasn't ready.
Sure, he'll be watching at home, maybe kind of glad he's sitting in a nice warm living room rather than getting into a racing car in these conditions. But what that meant was that Sauber had a big decision to make, and they kind of made the only decision they could, which was to ask the man who drove for them last year until they ditched him with 5 races to go, Pedro de la Rosa, to step into their car. Well, he did exactly that, and then this happened. Bearing in mind he hasn't driven this year's spec car, he hasn't used the KER's boost button, he hasn't used the drag reduction system rear wing, and he was actually wearing McLaren overalls for the first part of practice. It was such a late call-up to get him into the car. It was a disappointment for him, but it meant they had to rebuild the car and work very hard to have that car ready for qualifying. Well, I can tell you that Pedro was ready for qualifying along with 23 other cars. You know what happens in qualifying. Everybody goes out, drives around for an hour, and then Sebastian Vettel is fastest.
By the time qualifying began, it seemed the drivers had figured out how to negotiate the circuit Gilles Villeneuve without crashing. The most action was from the Sauber drivers. Pedro de la Rosa's car was surprisingly undamaged by this encounter, while his teammate Kamui Kobayashi entertained in his usual exuberant style. So while we didn't have any bent metal, we did have broken dreams at McLaren. On paper, this track plays to their strengths. The team did not bring a low-drag rear wing to this race, and that hurt them on the long straights. But the wing they do have will give them more downforce and better grip in the wet. So Button and Hamilton could have an ace up their sleeves today.
I don't think I've ever driven the car so hard in my life, really. I was just on such a ragged edge, and I think I even touched the wall at one stage. I literally got everything I could from it, with also trying to use a toe of another car because we're so slow on the straight.
A lot can happen here. This is a circuit you can overtake, so we just got to hope our race pace is a lot better than our qualifying, because we're a long way off what we expected to be around here.
Mercedes have the best movable rear wing device, or DRS, in the pit lane. And Nico Rosberg used it to good effect down the straights for 6th.
Generally, it's been progress, I think, this weekend. Qualifying, it's a good place to start, 6th position. And I think I'm pretty confident that we can do much better also in the race.
So with McLaren taking themselves out of the picture, it was down to Red Bull and Ferrari. Mark Webber's Kerr's hybrid system failed, meaning he couldn't better 4th, which let Ferrari in to record their best qualifying of the season. Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso separated by just 18 thousandths of a second, and Alonso's on the front row for the first time since September last year. A genuine surprise for Formula One, unlike Sebastian Vettel, who's on pole again and made amends for his crash in practice.
4th is towards the front for sure, and it's a long Grand Prix tomorrow. It's a mixed race here, we know. There's a bit of weather around potentially tomorrow, so interesting race tomorrow coming up.
I think the car is a little bit more competitive than we saw in the other tracks, so I hope we carry on like that.
If it rains, I think tire behavior or saving the tires will be a key factor, because also the wet tires, they degrade a lot, so we need to manage that. If it's not rainy, I think the start is, as usual, a good opportunity. We've been starting very good, so if we can repeat some kind of a start, will be a good thing.
I think McLaren's, they looked very competitive all weekend, and probably they had a different approach in qualifying, setting up the car for the race. So we will see. What do we prefer? We don't know. I mean, so far we have only had experience in the dry with the Pirelli tires in particular, so it will be new for all of us.
So Sebastian Vettel on pole again, but Fernando Alonso has passed a Red Bull off the line in each of his last 2 race starts. He and Massa aim to do that again. Mark Webber, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg complete the top 6. Jenson Button's sure he can improve on 7th today, while behind the Renaults but ahead of his teammate is Scotland's Paul di Resta and Pastor Maldonado, fastest of the Williams. Sauber have Pedro de la Rosa standing in for the injured Sergio Perez, but he's only 17th. Jarno Trulli out-qualifies Heikki Kovalainen at Team Lotus, while Hispania and Virgin retain their usual positions at the back of the grid.
Well, I've decamped to the dry. I'm here inside the McLaren garage, standing next to Lewis Hamilton's car, and to be honest, inside here there's a fair bit of head scratching going on. Lewis, of course, he starts 5th on the grid. Jenson Button starts 7th, and this team have been so fast here the last few years. I always love this. Just have a little look in there and see the cockpit that Lewis Hamilton will be sliding into, and trust me, there is no extra padding in there. That is how it is. These guys, there's not a lot of comfort in those race cars for them, but Lewis Hamilton has always done really well here. Of course, he picked up just mind the front wing. He picked up his first ever win here in Formula One, and he was certainly hoping for a better weekend than this. Of course, what you now need to do is make a decision on how you change your car ahead of this race. McLaren has said that they've got not necessarily a wet setup, but they're better equipped for the race than they were for qualifying, which maybe explains a bit of their pace. But talking of changing the car at this late stage, we've heard that Toro Rosso have removed Jaime Alguersuari's car from the grid. They're going to put a wet setup on that car. Just explain the thinking behind that and what they hope that will give them during the race.
Well, actually, it's a pretty trump card, really, because he was fairly well back. It gives him a huge advantage. They changed the dampers, they've changed the settings, the wings. What's actually quite important, they will put a lot of padding or a lot of tape on the ducts for the brakes, because the brakes will be naturally running a lot cooler because of the ambient temperature, but also of the spray and everything. And here is a very difficult car on brakes in particular. So they have actually, in my opinion, they've actually stolen a march on most people here.
Yeah, I think that in terms of changing the main parts of the setup, then that could well be beneficial to them, because under normal conditions they weren't looking quick enough to score points. But we should just clarify that all the teams are allowed, when you've got change of climatic conditions, to put brake tape and things like that on the car, so that won't have a bearing. But yeah, setup-wise, maybe they'll unleash that wonderful setup that we saw
with Sebastian Vettel in Monza a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and they could well be the start of the show.
Well, it worked for him. Let's take a little walk down to Ferrari, because they've done extremely well so far this weekend. We'll talk about them in a moment. But I suppose when you're starting 18th on the grid and you're under a bit of pressure, and Jaime Alguersuari is under pressure because he hasn't had the greatest of seasons so far, why not take a gamble in these conditions?
Why not? Why not indeed? by the very nature of wet weather running, it becomes a bit more of a lottery.
There's a much bigger advantage here, guys. Much bigger advantage. When you start in 18th place in weather like this, the spray is unbelievable. You cannot see your hand in front of you. And if you let the traffic go and you start you're starting knowing there's going to be 4 or 5 cars out in the first corner. That's generally my perception of what I think can happen. And what's going to happen? He gets the chance to come up, either behind the safety car or goes on without the spray in his face. I think it's a very, very clever move. Well done to them for doing this.
And if we take a look to our left, have you ever heard of the phrase, a hiding to nothing? Because this man has been here most of the morning, walking up and down, trying to get the water off, but as quickly as he manages to pick it up from the Ferrari pit box, the rain comes down and makes it just as wet. But they'll carry on working away, they'll carry on doing their bit, so at least their drivers know they're trying their best to keep this dry for them. But a great performance from Ferrari, David, on the back of their best result of the season so far in Monaco a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think this is a remarkable comeback, and it just shows the strength and depth of that company. There's been a lot of technical changes with the design team. There's obviously not harmony there behind behind the factory doors, but nonetheless they're within 2/10 of Sebastian Vettel in qualifying, and that's quite a remarkable comeback.
Yeah, and good for Felipe Massa that he's right up there as well. And if you carry on watching before long, we'll show you the pole lap comparison between Sebastian Vettel and the man in second place, Fernando Alonso. And trust me, there is so little between them, it's unbelievable. But of course it is Sebastian Vettel who's scaring the rest of the opposition with his pace at the moment. And actually he scared our very own Lee McKenzie after she got a close-up look at just why he is the man leading the Formula One World Championship.
Well, Sebastian, I'm very excited about this. I'm not quite sure if it's exciting for you, with me being a passenger in this car.
Depends.
It depends how fast you go. Oh my God. We've seen you sitting just before you go out and do your laps, or it being qualifying or the race, eyes closed, visualising the circuit. Please tell me you know this circuit very well.
I don't actually. I had a couple of laps, but I'm still not, 100% on left and right. So.
Let's get it over with.
What do you mean?
I am looking forward to it.
Looking forward to this.
I am.
I am.
Yeah, that's what worries me. I don't get scared. I say it bravely. You seem to have got to grips with this new form of Formula One that we have this season. What is it? Do you think you're driving better? Are you handling the tyres better? Where do you think you've got this edge?
I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously trying to do whatever I've got in my hands with the steering wheel, the car that I have, trying to do the best I can. And this year with the tyres, it's a different kind of Formula One compared to last year's.
I love this new setup in Formula One.
It really opens a lot of windows and opens a lot of possibilities for strategy, whether to do a stop more.
Well, this would be some kind of victory if he can make those tyres go from lap 16 to lap 78.
If you look at last race, we were going into the race and we thought it's impossible to one stop. That was a mistake actually, that we put the hard tyres on after the first stop. But at some stage I said, okay, the only chance to win the race is to stay out. So I tried to do the best with my tyres, probably treat them better than many people treat their wife.
Sebastian Vettel finally wins the Monaco Grand Prix. He is the master of Monaco.
Sideways, sideways.
A lot of sideways action.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm not a drift champion, but I like to try.
It's looking very good for you to retain your championship. Are you starting to think of that yet?
No, because it's very early still.
So who's your biggest rival?
Well, I think you can't really make them out yet. Obviously, the McLaren drivers have been very competitive since Australia, and I think being there always right behind us. But also, I think looking at Ferrari, Fernando is always there, and even if he has a bad weekend, he managed to get away with quite some points. So it will be, I think, Lewis, Fernando, Jensen, and then we will see whether Mercedes is able in the next couple of races to, turn the situation around for themselves and to catch up.
Watch other forms of motorsport, rallying, DTM, these things.
Most impressive is the rally. It's a bit crazy, but
Yes, it is.
it's very nice. I would like to try it myself one day, but I think Christian wouldn't be too happy.
No, danger, wall ahead. This would be your F1 car, you'd jump out, you'd do this. What is this? Tell us about this. We haven't really spoken about that.
I heard that some people get annoyed by it.
He keeps doing that.
He keeps doing that, doesn't he?
We'd also normally see you jumping on top of your car at Kinky Kylie.
I wouldn't do that now. I don't think the bonnet is.
It's about the only
made
thing
for
that's
it,
still going
so-
for the moment between the tyres and the brakes.
Probably.
Talk about mind games in Formula One, David. Mentions all of his rivals, but somehow forgets to mention his teammate Mark Webber as a challenger for the title. Very interesting.
Well, I think he would be hoping that Mark's going to be watching this show 10 minutes before the start of pit lane opening. So I think it's just that, he feels he's got Mark under control. He's got a bit of a gap there in the championship. So obviously from a team point of view, any new developments that come through, it's only reasonable that it's going to go on the car that has the best chance of winning the championship.
Yeah, but he also, let's be very clear, he used the word we. I think he was being really kind to his team, and I think he was thinking about the opposition. I hope he was thinking about the opposition outside Red Bull, because actually he has always been a very good team player.
OK, well, a quick weather update for you. I just spoke to the guys here on the Mercedes Grand Prix pit wall behind us. They said at the moment they expect this race to start without any rain falling. However, according to Ron Meadows from Mercedes, this is wet enough for a safety car start, which means that the cars have to be shod with their full wet tyres, so we'll wait and see how that unfolds. So it could be a rather dramatic and rather exciting race here this afternoon. It'll have to go some, though, to match Le Mans this weekend. It was a really dramatic Le Mans weekend, and we're just delighted that Alain McNish was able to get up and walk away after this accident during the race. It was a bad moment, that, for Audi. In fact, they had two big accidents, with Mike Rockenfeller also crashing out there. However, it wasn't all bad news, because Audi ended up winning the race. And David, you raced in 1993. We won't mention the fact that you were disqualified, but we will talk about the high speeds of this circuit. What is it like to race at Le Mans?
Well, I've erased it from my memory because you said I was disqualified.
What was it like until you were disqualified?
It's a great challenge. You know, Martin is very well placed to talk about that. He's won Le Mans multiple times, sports car world champion as well. It is a great British following when you go to that event, and I think arguably you do more laps and more kilometres during the single event than you do during an entire Grand Prix season.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and well done Anthony Davidson. He finished fourth in that race for Peugeot as well, and Audi winning the race. So all in all, I suppose you'd describe it as a good weekend for them. Right, we're getting very close to race time here. You can hear the engines are starting to roar up. Just 5 minutes until the grid is open and the cars start to make their way out to the grid, and perhaps do a couple of laps just to try and ascertain how much grip there is on this track here today. And even with this kind of weather, the fans still turn out in their droves, because believe it or not, if they don't come to this race in Canada, the nearest Grand Prix to them is at Silverstone. Therefore, the tickets around here are always pretty popular.
You make the rain fall. You make the rain fall. You make the rain fall. There's a soul beautiful like spring fall. You told me that you were an angel, but I already know what you came for. You make the rain fall.
Yeah, they're all very happy to be here. Listen, we better get out the pit lane because the cars will start coming down here in a moment. Let's make our way over to the Mercedes garage and talk a little about Michael Schumacher and Nico Rosberg. Nico Rosberg, Eddie, yet to finish in a higher position than he started the race in yet this season. Mercedes really need to start working on their race pace, don't they?
Well, there's a couple of teams like that, who seem to be able to just pull out the stops for qualifying and yet can't match it in the race. Mercedes, unfortunately for them, that seems to be the sequence. And I'm sure they're working really hard on that, because it's a transition period in some respects. But at the same time, we're used to better performances from Mercedes than what's happening at the moment. And Nico Rosberg, sure, he's doing a good job, but nobody really knows how good he is, because the benchmark being Michael Schumacher, Nico was beating him all the time, so we're still unsure of Can Nico become a world
it's
champion?
Pretty good benchmark, though. If you're beating the most successful guy in the history of the sport, I would go with that one.
Yeah, I'm sure we all would. And talking of being successful, he's the most successful driver ever here, actually. Michael has just climbed in the car to our right-hand side, gearing up for this race. And another win might be a little bit difficult for him here today, David. But what must it be like, though, for him, do you think, to be coming to places where you've won time and time again? What was it like for you, for example, going to Monaco, where you'd won twice and people were just expecting that you were going to win again?
Well, past performance, we say it time and time again, is no guarantee of future success. It doesn't matter what happened last year. All that matters is this opportunity this afternoon. Michael was known as the Rainmaster when he was in his first career, and he'll be seeing this as an opportunity. I think he did a great job in qualifying. He's right there with his younger teammate, separated by less than half a tenth, and he'll see this as a great opportunity. He's started well this year, and he knows how to drive in the wet, so I wouldn't be surprised if he moves forward.
Okay, well, there he is, the 7-time Formula 1 world champion, the 7-time winner here at the Canadian Grand Prix, and he took a slightly slower, slightly more leisurely tour around the circuit with our own David Coulthard.
Mr. DC.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you. Yeah. Well, welcome to Montreal, a place you know well. I'm a little bit concerned by these banners. Have you seen the picture? Now, there is a likeness to you, but it looks like your teammate is like a werewolf or something, don't you think?
He certainly looks older on that one than me, and that's difficult.
Oh, Jesus. Kick your feet down. Hey, I don't train anymore. Okay. My God, we're almost off.
Can you switch on cursor somehow?
Is this flat out? I think I could run faster than this. Actually, hold on. I'm coming in. Right, Michael, we've stopped down here. Apex of turn 1. Maybe tell us a little bit about the challenge of this area of the track.
It's a big challenge to go through here, make positions, and keep all your bits on the car and not be touched, as you know. Because whatever you take too much here, you then have an influence over there.
Yeah.
Because if you go too tight and too deep into the corner, the radius you have to take for corner 2 is losing time.
So here we are walking out of turn 2. This is known as being a traction corner.
This weekend in particular, a big challenge because tyres going to be a major. Be careful, stop it.
He has a conscience. He's worried about the cameramen. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Actually, would you mind if I get to drive a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
You're good co-pilot mode.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to argue with him. If I was closer to the pits, I might argue, but we're too far away.
Look at him, he's going to Coulthard. He's going to have it out with David Coulthard.
Sepp, zumindest kann ich ja einmal hier dieses Wochenende überholen.
What were you saying? You got to do it in English. We're broadcasting to the UK. We're not broadcasting to Germany.
So I do the throttle, he's doing the steering, and what do you do now?
I'm directing. Okay. Forward, please. Oh! Das ist fantastisch.
Wunderbar.
Even
Wunderbar.
the girls sound better when they speak German. So.
Oh, it's not very good, my accent?
No, Scottish goes,
To be honest, I only learned my German from watching DVDs when I was younger.
Yeah.
Can I drive?
No, still not. Get over here.
Send me these DVDs.
Turn 10. Probably one of the most sort of famous corners on this track in terms of the image of the crowd and everything.
You can feel it. If you pass somebody, you see them getting up and being excited. If you're in the right car and in the right situation.
Can I drive the last bit? Please.
Okay, fine.
Hey! I get to drive! Bon dia. This last chicane, they refer to this as the Wall of Champions or whatever. Have you ever ended up in this wall? I know Jacques ended there.
I think I created that name because I was the first one.
Oh, Schumacher out of the race!
I thought they called it the Wall of Champions.
Let's try to do everything proper.
So if a really good line, you would be here. That's a bit uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then on the exit, do you have to really be brushing the wall? Is that how it works, or?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of.
So what are you? How close can we get?
You try. I mean, you see.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a camera. Watch me not hit that. Oh my! Oh, I'm not comfortable. Can I go back on the circuit? Right, where are we?
Let's go for a pit stop.
Shall we do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. In amongst the tyres and stuff.
Yeah. Oh. Don't hit the phone ring. We don't have that many of them.
Actually, I did get quite close.
I know. I saw that.
Anyway, thank you for your time.
David,
good luck.
See you around.
So a big day for Michael Schumacher, who's making his way out and around to the grid. As we can see, Nick Heidfeld behind us being pushed back into the garage in his Renault car. What will that be for, David? What would you expect is going on there?
Well, they've got time, so they can just take that time just to have a look at the data, make sure that the brake temperature are coming in as expected. You know, you don't know exactly where, how much brake tape to put on there to get the cooling just right. We also saw Nico Rosberg stop in his pit box and actually put in some extra front wing. So obviously they've put a setting, or excuse me, I've said he put in wing, he may have taken wing out, but to be an offset for wet running. And then he's obviously done a lap, decided he wanted to try a little bit of a change, and he can go to the grid. So they are able to make front wing adjustments and temperature adjustments for brakes and cooling.
Actually, as we speak, and I've been just looking around me, and I think the clouds have just lifted, and who knows, the gamble that McLaren have made. Yes, at this moment in time it looks a good gamble, but you know, I think there'll be a dry line very early on in this race.
Okay, well, if you're getting a bit blasted out by the sounds of the cars, that's because they're trying to do reconnaissance laps, find out how much grip is on the circuit, and sadly there's nowhere else that we can go apart from stand quite close and speak rather loud. We've just been told that the McLaren cars are heading to the grid on intermediate tyres. What would the drivers have been doing on their first lap, David? Where would they have been looking for the grip, or what would have been the processes for them?
Well, the guys that have been here before may know already where to find the grip, and in some corners it will be slightly offline. In other corners you've got no choice. Of course, when you go through a chicane you have to cross over the racing line at a certain point. So if you've got no experience of this track, then you'll be trying to make it up as you go along. And certainly in terms of finding the grip of the tyres, they can go around on the full wet and then they can come in and put the intermediate on. And do a little comparison. As you see the McLaren pass behind us with its intermediate tyres. We know that because it's got the blue writing on the side. And the drivers will be getting that information, and when they get out of on the grid, this is the real pressure pot when they have that conversation with engineers. What is the right tyre to start on? Presuming it's not a safety car start, of course, because then they have free choice on what wets to put on.
Okay, well, we're expecting Michael Schumacher and there he is, Michael Schumacher to appear behind us any moment, and right on cue arrives the champion. Just remember though, there's been very little running for any of these teams in either the wet tyres or the intermediate tyres. We can now go and join Martin on the grid, and Martin, we've yet to see an incident in the first corner this season, but if we're going to see one, today might just be that day, Martin.
It's a magical mystery tour. Welcome to the grid, team. Look, they're still practicing their starts. They're queuing up in the end of the pit lane. We're not too far away from the pit lane being closed at 1:15 as they're desperately trying to find the clutch bite point. And that's Sutil there for Force India, and Maldonado for Williams. They're still queuing up now to somehow find out how they can get the cars off the line. Is it intermediate tyres or is it the full wet? On these conditions, you'd normally say intermediate, but it turns out they really can't keep a lot of temperature in those intermediate tyres. They're quite a hard rubber that's designed to go more towards slick running, and so there's a great concern that anybody who starts on inters may well struggle initially. So they'll go out and try those tyres now on the formation laps. I would imagine we're going to be as welcome as a toothache on the grid today, I'd imagine. But look how short the run is. The 24 cars will charge down there, 23, because Al Jaswari will start from the pit lane. But charge down to that one piece of track they're all aiming at, and it's such a short run down there. We see Barrichello now going out onto the track too. So the safety car here, that normally leaves the grid with about 5 minutes to go. If that disappears, we know it won't be a safety car start. If it is a safety car start, all of the drivers have to start on the full wet tyre. We'll just have a quick chat with Bernd Mailander. Bernd, any news of whether it's a safety car start?
No, not so far. We have still 10 minutes to decide what we are doing, and in a moment it looks better than half an hour ago.
Yeah, good. Don't let it be a safety car start. It spoils the fun. So if they say safety car start, say no, I'm not going to do that today. Okay, we sorted that out then. So here then is the finish line of the race. Sebastian Vettel is not yet on his grid slot. Emerson Fittipaldi is the steward, the driver steward here. Emerson, it could be a busy day for you guys in the steward's office.
Well, I hope it's not going to be so busy, but looks like today will be a very busy day.
Do you wish you were out here today in these conditions, driving again?
Sorry?
Do you wish you were out today driving? You fancy this today?
If just wet, yes, but not aquaplaning. Too much water, no. But now, I don't think so bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't look too bad at all.
Good to see you, Tim. Right, so we've got Vettel's cruising up onto the grid here with full wet tyres on that he's decided to try. And now he's going to have to debrief with his engineer. And apparently said on the radio he's going to start on the wet tyres. I think somebody's just switched me off behind there. So I'll carry on talking, but I can't hear anything anymore. Yeah. Okay, I'm still broadcasting, so that's fine. So Vettel, look, he's got his little rubber boots that they put on to stop your fireproof boots from getting too damp. And obviously the last thing you want to do is cart water in the car. They're sitting on the top there. They're worth all of about £5, I'd imagine, but they could be rather critical in this multi-million-pound approach to trying to win a Grand Prix. The man who leads the championship puts his galoshes on now, standing up in the seat as he heads out through the dry ice, the smoke. They've still got to cool the car down. There's no fans on these cars that run by themselves. They've got to cool the car using the fans. So Vettel will now get out and debrief with Guillaume Roquelin, his engineer, and decide which tyre he's going to start the race on. It's not really ideal for him. He doesn't want this misinformation. He doesn't want this doubt of what to do and how to do it, because he's the man that's been fastest, and he would like just a very, very straightforward race. And I will just hang around a little bit in the hope that we can have a quick word with him. I don't know if he's... Tommy, is he up for chatting today?
I think so.
Yeah, you think Tommy is the trainer. He's a good lad. I think we'll wait for Sebastian to say what he's got to say to his engineer, and then we'll move on down the grid. I'm desperate to hear what he thinks of the track conditions, because we're in pole position here. I'm getting kicked from behind by Spanish TV as normal, and I don't want to interrupt him because that would not be fair. But I really, if you don't mind waiting, I really would like to just get a word from pole position man and the championship leader. And there's a lot of discussion going on here. I don't want to move away from... I'm in pole position to talk to him first. So let's just see. Sebastian, how's the track? How's the track feeling out there?
It's quite slippery and quite wet, so...
So do you think there's any chance of getting the intermediates to work?
Well, not with this amount of water, that's for sure. So I think at the moment it's pretty clear. Extremes, maybe later on with less water.
What is your knowledge of these tyres? You've done so little running. Have you? I mean, in Istanbul you ran on them and they went in the wall, but I mean, the car's quite tricky out there, presumably.
Yeah, around here it's quite slippery because the tarmac doesn't have a lot of grip, the asphalt doesn't have a lot of grip, so not much knowledge, but I share this small knowledge with all the others. So.
Send them a bit of spray, that'll fix them. Whoa, I'm getting mugged here. Tanya, how is it? You're good. It's a long queue. It's a long queue. Right, let's see if we can find Mark Webber. I might try Alonso as well. Look at the grid's busy today. And Alonso just getting out of the car. So he'll be taking his skid lid off anytime now. I'm going to see with their PR boss, Luca Colliani. You're kidding me? I can't even see Luca Colliani, let alone Fernando Alonso. So what? Number three. Only one question, but I don't have 3 minutes to wait. We'll try him later. Where are we? Let's move down. Right. So we're just going to, if we can actually squeeze past, we're just going to... How do the drivers focus with all these people around them and people like me trying to ask them questions? Now look at these tyres here. So they're going to have dry tyres, just in case. They're going to have intermediate and wet tyres in the blankets. Now they're heated to around 60 degrees centigrade. 60 for the intermediates and the wets. Now the drivers have 4 sets of intermediate tyres, which do as they say, somewhere between wet and dry, and only 3 sets of the full wet tyre, which if there's not enough standing water, they can blister. Here's, let's see if we can get a quick word with Mark Webber, because I don't fancy standing in the queue for Fernando Alonso. Mark, how's the track in your view?
Oh, it's pretty good. Tricky in places, I think, through 5, 6, 7, still a bit of water through there. Obviously, visibility is going to be pretty poor as well. But yeah, it's not too bad. Obviously, I did 1 lap. I would like to have done 2, but for reasons we're going to do 1. But anyway, we'll have a look when we get going.
Is this an afternoon just to stay on the road, or have you got to go for it anyway?
Oh, I think survival is very important for the first hour. It'll probably go the distance. There'll be safety cars, so there's an opportunity at every corner to drop it. So you just got to stay cool, but of course keep the pace sensible.
This is quite good news for you, though, isn't it? You must feel pretty good about these conditions. It gives you as good a chance as any to win this motor race.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad. Obviously, a few more grey hairs, but once we get going, it's always nice to have the challenge.
Thank you. Right, we got Lewis's car down here, and they had a difficult qualifying. P5 on the grid. This car is not on the grid yet, which is Nico Rosberg. Where's Nico's car?
He's coming now.
He's on his way round. He got out of the pit lane on time. So talk about leaving it late. Jensen's just running through the fence. They're pushing. They have to push the cars down onto the grid. So that's the full wet tyre that he's coming through, and you can see the deeper grooves. And obviously we're not allowed to look at the back of that car by the looks of it. So Nico Rosberg then, with absolutely no preparation time whatsoever, as he's literally just rocked up onto the grid. We'll wander a little bit further back. Let's see what Ross Brawn thinks about it all. Ross, he's concerned about something. He's obviously hearing. Just a quick one, Ross. What news are you getting back from your drivers?
No chance of intermediates at the moment. But of course, with no more rain, that could change pretty quickly. But they don't think they'll be able to start on intermediates.
Do you have a clue what the crossover point is between wets, inters and slicks?
No. I mean, the only information we have is a bit of wet running and winter testing.
OK, thank you very much. So that's Ross saying the teams really don't have an idea of what kind of lap time roughly that you'd say, OK, the track is now ready for inters, is ready for slick tyres. And that then, I just wanted to have a quick word with somebody down here who I heard was coming on the grid with Renault, but I can't see him. And I think we're running out of time. And we have run out of time. It's back to you, Jake.
Thanks a lot, Martin. A good effort. I think he was actually looking for Colin Farrell. The reason why Colin wasn't there was because Eddie held him up, grabbing him in the paddock and talking to him. But let's talk about the tyres. As Martin was discussing there, the difference between the inters and the wets. It's difficult for the teams to know quite what to do here, David, because there's so little running on these. One of the team principals was saying to me, we just don't know what the crossover point is. We don't know at which point you should be on wets and at which point you should be on intermediate tyres. Really.
Well, that's right. And even if they had been running, if we were still using Bridgestone tyres, it would still be down to this day in history in terms of track temperature and how the tyres are going to actually perform out there. But of course, with the Pirellis, they've got so little wet running. They had Friday practice in Turkey, they had a bit of pre-season running in Barcelona, which not all the teams took part in. So it will be a big journey of discovery here this afternoon. But interestingly, they were saying that, as Ross said, they'll be full wet to start the race.
Yeah.
There's so much more ability to lean on a full wet tyre laterally than you can with the intermediate. The intermediate might be a faster tyre when you're running alone, but you just don't have any block movement there to sort of build heat within the tyre.
And that was Vitaly Petrov making his way into the Renault motorhome, so he's feeling cool at the moment. 15 minutes to go. He's playing it nice and safe. David, we'll let you head off to the commentary box. The races have been mad enough without rain, so we'll wait and see what happens here today.
Enjoy.
All right, thanks a lot, David. Let's see what's happening then out on the track, and we're gearing up for what could be a pretty special Grand Prix here this weekend. The cars are out on the grid, and we saw Nico Rosberg there arriving very late onto the grid, Eddie, didn't we?
Yeah, and I'm sure they're still going through the final discussions and strategy-wise. I mean, this is a big, important race for the actual guys on the pit wall.
OK, we can see there the Williams team gearing up now. They've got Rubens Barrichello in their ranks. He's a man who loves driving in the wet. He said last night that he would be praying for wet weather from 16th on the grid. He's driven for you in the rain. What's he like?
Well, he is a rain master, there's no doubt about it. The problem is, for him, there's lots and lots and lots of more people who are rain masters. We only have to look at the current world champion, Vettel. We talked already about Michael Schumacher. There's endless amounts of really very talented people. So I think the advantage that he may have had in years gone by, I think has now been gobbled up, and everybody is as good as he is in the wet.
OK, well, how's Jenson Button feeling about this one? He starts from 7th on the grid, another driver that enjoys wet weather, another driver who said his car would be faster in the race than in qualifying. Well, let's find out how he's feeling. He's with Lee.
Well, Jenson, you came out to the grid on inters, it looked like. How slippy was the track?
Very. There's a lot of standing water out there. And if it was going to be like that for the start, I think you'd be very wary out there. So I don't know. It stopped raining. It's getting warmer. We still haven't quite decided what we're going to run. But
Time's ticking.
Yeah, I know. Time is ticking, but it is for all of us. So I think we'll make the right call.
I don't want to hold you up any longer. Thank you.
Just give us an idea, Eddie, of who makes these decisions. How much will the team be leaning on Jenson Button to let them know how it felt out there?
Well, he's the guy who's on track, and what was important, I think, what David said about finding the grip and experienced drivers. Always remember that I could never be more surprised with Ayrton Senna. He always used to take by far the longest way around the corner, and the reason he did that was because there was more shale, there was more grip on the outside of the corner, and everyone then started to follow him. He was the master for me. He could find his way around a wet track quicker than anybody.
OK, there's Colin Farrell. Sadly, he missed Martin Brundle out there on the grid, but what of Sebastian Buemi? He's driving for Toro Rosso. He's driving well, actually, this year. He starts 15th.
Well, Sebastian, what do you think? You want a chance intermediates?
It's a difficult call, to be honest. We went down on extreme. It seems to be quite slippery, so at the moment we are still looking at how the weather will change in a few next minutes.
And your teammate has a full wet setup on now, yeah? Do you?
No, I don't have a full wet setup, but obviously, yeah, they try something with him. We'll see how it goes.
Thanks, Sebastian.
Not long to go now until lights out in the start of this Grand Prix. Eddie, you loved situations like this, didn't you? Was it exciting or was it nerve-wracking when you've got big decisions to make?
Well, I did always love, and I mean, I remember some of our opposition used to say, Jordan, you could only ever win in the wet conditions. That actually changed later on. But actually, the reality was, you always went, or at least Jordan did, we always tried to go the opposite to the thinking that the big teams would go. And therefore, you know you're not actually racing them fair to fair. And if the conditions happen to favour us, or at least a strategy you could go with, in those days you could go for more fuel, get a longer run, stay out on the tyres, and those aspects. And I think that's what was very good and very successful. We did have a couple of really key guys. Gary Anderson in particular was a magic man in anticipating those particular situations.
OK, well, once upon a time, Eddie was the one making the decisions. Today, it's slightly younger men, the likes of Christian Horner, who we can hear from now. We've heard that the race will start behind the safety car. Here's what Christian has to say.
What's the smart thing to do then, Christian?
It's very interesting. I think the weather says it's going to brighten up a bit, but I think you've just got to be on the right tyres at the right time. So, you know, when you're starting from pole, you don't want to take that many risks.
So that's probably full wets for you then?
Well, I haven't spoken to the drivers yet, but I think that it's difficult to say at the moment. But, you know, when you look at the install laps, it looked full wets, but it changes so quickly.
OK, thanks, Christian.
Well, rain or no rain, the perfect place to be is on pole position, even if you've only done it by 0.2 of a second over almost 3 miles on the tarmac. This is how close it is between first and second on the grid.
Let's compare the qualifying laps with the two men occupying the front row of the grid. Sebastian Vettel on the left, he's on pole. Fernando Alonso on the right, second on the grid. 185 miles an hour as they start the lap down towards the braking zone for turn 1. 95 miles an hour through the first apex. Turn 2 follows immediately, and they're absolutely neck and neck. A heavy traction zone as they accelerate towards the turns 3 and 4 chicane. And as they sweep into the apex, it's Alonso slightly ahead on the right-hand side. The wall on the exit of turn 4 has claimed many cars this weekend, no problem for these two. But turning in to this fast turn 5 corner, Alonso on the right seems slightly uncertain. Straight into the turn 6 and 7 chicane. Look at the steering angle that Alonso on the right-hand side has to put in. He's got a slower steering rack on that car. But Vettel on the left gets on the throttle very early indeed and gains an advantage through the exit of that chicane. It's a long run down to the turns 8 and 9 chicane, building up to 190 miles an hour. Bumpy braking zone just underneath that bridge. And as they sweep into the apex, Vettel maintains his advantage. The line very similar. These two drivers absolutely on the top of their game. They change gear at different times, suggesting different gear ratios. 190 miles an hour heading towards the heavy braking zone for the turn 10 hairpin. Vettel locks his right front slightly, but they take absolutely identical lines, technically perfect. A long straight now, up to 200 miles an hour, heading towards the end of the lap. Watch Vettel's left hand as he makes a quick brake balance adjustment in preparation for the difficult final chicane, turns 13 and 14. The back marker, no problem there. This is all about who is going to be on pole position. As they glance across those curves, Vettel look more comfortable, more confident. They both stay slightly right for the shortest run to the line, and there it is. another pole position, his 21st. Sebastian Vettel just aces Fernando Alonso.
I love to see that. That is how close it is in Formula One, and it could be pretty close this afternoon. Eddie, set up perfectly for this race.
We are in for a magic treat. We have on pole position, which is the best place to be, Sebastian Vettel. And then the best starter currently, Fernando Alonso, which will be a very tight thing into the first corner. McLaren, they've decided to go on a wet setup, and they're going to be very fast. Who knows what's going to happen here?
OK, keep your eye on that first corner. Of course, we believe that we're starting under a safety car, but we'll see. Time to hand over to Martin Brundle and David Coulthard. The national sport here is ice hockey, but one weekend a year, something else arrives that's equally ferocious and equally exciting.